Hello and welcome back to Deep Drive, our weekly podcast powered by Kotak Mahindra Prime. Now, this week on this episode, we're going to be talking about a company that is all poised to grow. They've not been really making too much noise about what they're planning to do, but that's where we come in. We're going to unearth a lot of that plans. And that company is Toyota. That's what we're going to be focusing on this week. I'm Hormazd Sorabjee.
Hi, I'm Ketan Thakkar. Yes, Hormazd, the company has quietly, without making too much of a noise, cemented its place as the fifth largest car maker in India. They don't talk too much. India has actually broken into top 4 markets for Toyota Motor Corporation.
With a lot of help from Maruti Suzuki.
Without a doubt, more than 50% of volumes definitely comes from those compact cars that they source from Maruti Suzuki. But, that is one company that quietly does its job. It's phenomenal if you look at the numbers, and something that we track very closely. Revenues have doubled. Volumes have doubled, profitability has quadrupled, and it's phenomenal that they've done it with Maruti products and Alliance products. Now, what is exciting and something that we're going to be talking about today is their own range of products.
Yeah. And that's coming out of their new plant just outside Aurangabad and Shambhaji Nagar.
Yes. So, the action actually begins at Bidadi, their mother plant. And I was surprised after announcing the Aurangabad facility that there was a C plant that was added in Bangalore. And I was wondering, there's a 1 million units capacity coming in. What's the need for Toyota Kirloskar to set up a third factory there? But then, of course, after understanding the strategy behind the game plan, one understood that they want to leverage on that IMV architecture and the Hycross architecture, and they want to do much more out of it. There was a plan to bring in Corolla Cross in the past, but
which they had canned. And I think there's a plan to bring in the Corolla sedan also.
Yes.
But I think Maruti Suzuki chickened out at that time. They didn't share that, that product with them. So clearly the scale wasn't enough for Toyota to bring it. So the Corolla also went here.
Yes, that's right.
And now I think in a way, maybe sedans are really not doing well. So
right choice, maybe.
maybe a right choice.
Right.
Yeah.
So once Corolla Cross was dropped, the question was, how are we going to fill the factory? And in order to ensure that there's viability of the factory and the viability of the architecture, a C segment SUV was a missing piece in Toyota's portfolio. MPVs, they are the king of MPVs, but the market was moving up and there was significant demand for C SUVs. So a thought process was, why don't you utilize the existing Hycross architecture and come out with a C SUV as a derivative? So that is going to be one critical pillar, which is going to fill up the factory. And an interesting part is also the fact that Hormazd, they're going to be discontinuing the Innova Crysta.
Right.
And again,
yeah, we've talked about that, I think, because of CAFE norms.
Yes.
And I personally think a big mistake discontinuing the Innova Crysta just because of CAFE. I think it's going to be similar to what happened after they discontinued the Qualis. It was a vacuum left, which a lot of other people filled in. At that time, it was a Chevrolet Tavera. In fact, the discontinuation of the Qualis is what gave the Tavera a lease of life at that time.
Right.
Back in 2005, talking about 20 years, the Crysta is very much a fabric of, long distance mobility here. Very much a fabric of the fleet segment.
Right, Hormazd.
Because, diesel is diesel at the end of it. And I think it's going to be give a lot of opportunity to other players to come in there with diesel MPVs, which, they haven't. One could be Tata Motors.
Yeah.
And, they're working on an MPV
Right.
as well on the Sierra platform.
Yes.
Obviously, reliability, that kind of trust, which is a huge factor for the fleet segment, may not be there. But, when you don't have a choice, you gravitate to what is possibly there. So I think, Ketan, correct me if I'm wrong, they will continue with Innova Crysta, but it won't be diesel. It might be probably some form of a hybrid.
That's right, Hormazd. I think once bitten, twice shy. They've realized that, you open up the space to the competitors and competitors lap it up. Along with the Tata Motors, Hyundai has also announced that they're going to be coming out with an MPV.
That's right.
The other scoop, Hormazd, on a Santa Fe platform,
Yeah.
an MPV is being mooted at Hyundai. So while we're talking Toyota, but there's an interesting insight on Hyundai as well. And that is going to stack right in place.
And I think we've talked about it. I think MPVs are in a way coming back because, with the SUVs, they've all experienced it. There's a bit of a been there, done that kind of, let's say, feeling right now. People want to have something which is practical and spacious with a lot of cabin space. They're spending more and more time in their cars.
Right.
And, as you said, once bitten, twice shy. Toyota realized that it makes sense to run two parallel lines
Absolutely.
after the kind of experience with the Qualis.
Absolutely.
They're running Innova Crysta and they're running Innova Hycross parallelly.
And that's the plan, Hormazd. That's the plan, exactly
But
what
no,
you
but I think the diesel is going to go.
That's right.
So, and I think the body on frame is going to go as
Yes.
well.
Yes.
So I think as a product, what it stood for, that there is a certain value in body on frame. We've said it before. A lot of fleet operators say chassis wala gadi chahiye.
Right.
And I think that's where really Mahindras also score with the Scorpios.
Right.
And so I think I personally think it's a big mistake. But I think sometimes, as we said before, cafes redefining products and strategies.
No, I completely agree with you, Hormazd. I think even I was wondering as to how will Toyota make up for the plan, and which is where the question mark was, what will exactly the C plant do? So now the thought process is, and which is where I meant to tell you that once bitten, twice shy, they want to ensure that the existing Hycross goes and takes the place of Innova Crysta. And they want to ensure that the existing fleet buyers, and which is what they swear by, the Innova badge and the Innova brand and the Innova's comfort, with a more cost-effective version, more decontented version, will continue to operate with a hybrid powertrain though.
It'll have to be with a hybrid, because what we've seen is, in fact, I remember, I think it was, I'm not sure, it was one of the Hyundai new launches, which we had gone to Goa for. I was talking with the support car, or a media tracking car, was an Innova Hycross. So, and it was a standard one without the hybrid. And he was just cursing. He's saying the average is terrible.
Yeah.
And a colleague of his, he spent more, bought the hybrid version, and gets much better fuel efficiency. So, fuel efficiency is super important.
Absolutely.
Which the hybrid delivers, but hybrids are expensive. We don't know long term in terms of mileage, even on battery costs and things like that. So I think, moving away from diesel, I'm sure Toyota does know it's a risk. They've obviously weighed it off. Cafe penalties vis-a-vis the risk of losing certain amount of market share and that audience.
Yes.
And don't forget, Ketan, I think the Crysta, what's it selling about? 3,000 still?
Minimum. Yeah.
Minimum 3,000 with just a manual single engine.
Phenomenal.
It's absolutely focused on the fleet. No frills on the cabin. So can you imagine if there was an auto in that, how much bigger it would have been? So clearly, I think, Toyota has kept that for the fleet. But, just the pull of the Crysta is so strong.
It's going to be missed.
It's going to be missed. And just putting a badge and not giving it the same DNA, which is body on frame and diesel, I don't know if it'll work.
So I think they are reimagining themselves. If you were to really look at the portfolio, they've got Rumion now, a rebadge Ertiga. There is that MPV coming on the e-Vitara platform.
That's right.
That's a YMC. It is how it is called in the Maruti Suzuki's world.
That's right. That's
going to be
a three-row MPV.
That's right.
Yeah.
So what is going to happen, Hormazd, is that
I think it competes with the BYD E6.
E6.
Yeah.
That's right. So I think it's very well thought through in a way. From a multi-energy perspective, you have a Rumion, you have the eMPV. Then you have the Hycross, which is for the fleet. And then you have the new MPV, which is for the personal buyers, called 840D internally. And then you're going to have derivative of that, which is going to be an SUV. So I think they've thought through this, and one of the important factor here has got to be the continuity in the management. We've mentioned about Yoshimura-san in the past, probably the most,
He was
the longest serving.
Yeah.
Yes. He was a person of the year at our platform. He's been around for the last 7 years. He's thought through the portfolio. He's taken some hard calls, 2 new factories, and clearly there's a nice cadence to the price point and the stacking of products that I see right now. And it's a significantly heavy focused MPV portfolio that one is seeing. And to me, the heartening thing is there are going to be a lot of Toyota own developed products.
Right. But, you talked about the YMC, which is the MPV. I mean, I think one assumes it will do well, but I don't think we can assume, because, I mean, if you look at their first play in Ebella, I mean, it's just absolutely shocking that after showing the product in January, we are sitting right now at the end of March. By the time this podcast comes on air, it'll be into the new financial year, and no price at all.
Yeah,
it's just ridiculous. And for Toyota to do this, which is so structured in the way they launch products, clearly honestly, it shows a lack of confidence.
It does.
And I think the Vitara hasn't got off to a flying start. Lukewarm response, as we know. I mean, I'm sure it'll do well just by being a Maruti Suzuki, but by their standards,
Still very low volumes.
very, very low volumes, just given the footprint they have. And really, I think, I just don't understand what Toyota's planning to do with the Ebella. I mean, they've lost 2 months since it was launched. Clearly, it's not a priority. Like, EVs are not a priority. We did this in an earlier podcast. The Japanese, I think, looking more at hybrid powertrains. That is their core strength.
I agree.
And so I think, on the EV side, I don't have too much confidence just looking at how they're going about it. Clearly, on the hybrids, they'll do well. And I think, obviously, Toyota being Toyota, one thing will be for sure is that their core attribute, and I think their biggest strength or their top 5 strengths is reliability, 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 and reliability. So, I think that is just amazing. No one can touch them for that. So, of course, that is a very strong plus, and that's what drives all their products really, and the volumes they have. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, we do sometimes wonder as to what is the thought process behind some of the strategic calls that they take with regards to pricing, with regards to discontinuing a project midway, introducing a model which is rebadged, but at the end of the day, they somehow, because of the factor that you mentioned, reliability, they catch the fancy of the Indian buyers, and which is where I feel the last 5 years was so much about an alliance product, Hyrider,
Right.
followed up with series of rebadged products from Maruti.
Right.
Finally, we're going to see Toyota's own platform products, and talking to dealer friends, the kind of pressure that they have to sell right now is that they've never seen in the past. There's so much talk about, if you sell well for 3 years in a row, you'll get Toyota's own model. So even the ecosystem has been aligned to prepare for that high volume game, that if you prove that you can sell 300,000 in a year for 3 years in a row, you start getting your own model. So while it is putting too much pressure, but everyone's now waiting as to when do these models actually come and hit the road. So quite excited to see the lineup in the future, Hormazd.
Yeah, but I think, Ketan, there's one thing which is quite telling. Sense one gets is that Toyota is going its own way, and so is Maruti Suzuki. And really, the alliance that was stitched right after, frankly, with Osamu Suzuki and Toyota's son, which is Akio's dad. I think I don't see that really being as strong as before. And clearly, we've seen that Toyota's going its own way, Maruti with the series hybrid and its own products going their own way. The fact that Maruti's done the Victoris on its own, its own badge, not the Grand, and not kind of, despite having the Grand Vitara and putting all its weight behind the Victoris, clearly it wants to carve its own independent journey, independent of Toyota. And I have a bit of a theory on this. I think, after Osamu-san passed away, I think his son, Toshihiro, I think he wants to kind of make his own mark independently. So I think, it's going to be that, do we really need Toyota? Yeah, the fathers were very close and that respect was kept and there were alliances. But I think, now he's his own man. He wants to carve his own destiny, and he wants to kind of, put his stamp on the company, which was really kind of led by a giant of a man who was his father, and he was very much in the shadow of his father. I think he wants to come out of that and do it quite independently. So it's just speculation. Some people talk about it, but clearly I see, Maruti Suzuki and Toyota going slightly separate ways going forward.
Right. It's interesting you said that, Hormazd, because at the end of the day, every alliance partnership is linked with win-win partnership, right? If you have to really look at the kind of products that Toyota's got, we've seen nothing really for Maruti Suzuki, and all that we saw was Invicto. And Toyota's capitalized big time and helped them on the CAFE score.
Invicto and Grand Vitara. Well, Grand Vitara, no, it's just a powertrain. They developed that. Invicto, it was completely there. The 560D.
That's right. That's right. And the strong hybrid that they got with Grand Vitara. These are the two major things that Maruti's got.
The whole EV platform, which was actually led by Toyota. We called it 40PL initially, that was really led by Toyota with all the partners. That's really not, kind of given them the kind of success, or maybe too early to say, that, one would have expected. So really, I think, you rightly said, I think Toyota has got a lot more out of this alliance than Maruti has. And frankly, they've got all the small cars, which again helps their cafe scores.
Absolutely, absolutely. So when a million units capacity was thought through for Aurangabad, the question was, why will Toyota set up such a large facility? Now, there is a feeling or a belief that eventually with the new platform that is coming out of Aurangabad, probably those are the products that Maruti Suzuki will eventually get as a rebadge portfolio from the Toyota's own stable. Because if you were to really logically look at it from the existing portfolio, there's nothing that Maruti Suzuki can sell. Uh, Innova Crysta, well, there was no future for it. So there's really nothing there in Toyota's portfolio. So what is it that Suzuki could have got out of Toyota? And which is where this 900D new gen multi-energy platform that is being thought through. The Corolla Cross, while it was earlier borrowed from the previous architecture, was dropped. But with the new gen architecture, there are going to be multiple body styles. And interesting part is there's going to be plug-in hybrid, there's going to be electric vehicle on that, there's going to be strong hybrid, and there's going to be a conventional ICE platform. So I think now with this localized architecture, with the ecosystem in Aurangabad, probably it makes sense for Maruti to kind of then have a premium mid-size SUV coming in from Toyota.
The problem is that Maruti is really struggling to sell premium. I mean, the Invicto numbers vis-a-vis the Hycross numbers is just a glaring example of how Maruti simply doesn't have the brand strength to go above 20 lakhs. I think that's why they're pushing the Victoris so much. Is trying to show investors, stakeholders that, hey, we can sell premium as well. I mean, I have a thing on that their push towards CNG has really damaged their brand. I mean, everything is CNG right now. And clearly you're attracting a different kind of buyer who really doesn't have the propensity or to spend beyond a certain point. So I think really in Maruti, in fact, I think if you ask me, it's their brand strength has weakened actually as far as trying to go premium. Very, very difficult.
I agree with you.
So I don't know what they would take as Toyota goes more premium. I think honestly, talked about the volumes. I think Ketan, a lot of the volume is going to be for export. What I hear is from Shambhaji Nagar, about 30% of production is going to be exported. So that is quite a large number. And clearly we broke the story, the Land Cruiser FJ, that's going to be made and that will be exported to the Middle East. I think, Middle East is going to be one area which Toyotas are popular and clearly India is going to be the market that's going to supply that region.
Yeah, interesting, Hormazd. I think they're getting their SUVs and MPVs lined up very well from Aurangabad, and that's going to be quite exciting. And to me, to see their volumes grow from 200,000 not too long back to almost 500,000 in just a couple of years, and to have so many cars coming up, I think it's going to be quite exciting from Toyota's perspective. And that's the reason why even the value chain has been aligned that way, both from the vendors and the dealer standpoint. There's tremendous effort on localization going on. There's tremendous effort on ground with regards to dealers to be able to manage high volume throughput is being taken care of. So there's a strong orientation going on. And how can I forget 582D, the new gen Fortuner is also coming in,
which will continue with the diesel.
Yes, the 2.8 liter will continue there, and it will also have it'll come with a mild hybrid. So I think Toyota clearly going the multi-pathway. Yes, a big question mark over how they're going to approach the EVs.
Well, the fact that they're doing the Fortuner with the diesel shows that, they know that diesel has a kind of, let's say, appeal.
Yes.
And really, especially with SUVs, you can't not have diesel. But I guess Fortuner very small volumes, so doesn't really impact CAFE as much. So they will go ahead with that there.
Right. So I think Hormazd, quite an exciting portfolio, ecosystem aligned now, and really looking forward to a new Toyota in the Indian market. Very interesting, Hormazd. If you were to really look at their global sales and some of the markets where they have presence, China, they are range bound, not being able to grow. There's a price war going on significantly, and they are able to hold on to their own, but they're not able to grow. You look at Southeast Asia, which was their major fiefdom. In Indonesia,
Chinese have just come in there.
It's shocking to see that in the last few years, Toyota's volumes in both those markets have remained around 2.5.
Same for Honda, all these guys. I mean, that's why Honda's coming back to India in a big way.
And that's the reason why you see that the next big bet has got to be India.
And honestly, Ketan, is not just for Toyota, it's for everyone. Skoda, we just heard news, pulled out of China.
Yes.
So again, where do you look at India?
Not there in Russia as well.
Not there in Russia as well. US, they've never been. So I think you're right. I think India is the next big bet for a lot of these, OEMs or these big multinationals. And clearly, I think that's fantastic, for the industry over here. Still, a lot of challenges structurally. This market is very tough for people to break into, just the way it is.
Absolutely.
And but I think clearly, I think with more vehicles coming in, different powertrains, and I think I think at least for companies like Toyota, where the brand is so strong over here. I mean, they can sell at high prices products which are genuinely not good value in terms of features and stuff. The value is only derived from the fact that they just run forever and ever, and you can't put any price to that. That's really what sells, and that's what a lot of the Indians buy into, and that's why it is such a strong brand over here. And I think they're going to leverage that.
Absolutely, Hormazd. And to me, the most exciting part is that new investment in Aurangabad. Because when Toyota comes and invests, it doesn't invest on its own factory. It invests on the entire ecosystem.
The supplier base, yeah, that's right.
The worker base, the supplier base,
Training.
the training, the entire. I mean, if you go to Auric City right now, which is what I hear from friends, I haven't been there of late, but the entire system is buzzing right now. Everyone wants to go and set up a factory there. You got to give credit to the CM of Maharashtra, Deven Fadnavis, to get that huge investment into the state. Now that region is going to get transformed. The real estate prices are going through the roof. The entire ecosystem is going to be thriving.
So even JSW is coming there.
JSW is coming there. Ather is going to be setting up a factory there. And Skoda Auto VW is going to have a significant role with probably the MEV platform in the future.
Right.
So the entire ecosystem is going to get developed, and everyone's now looking at Aurangabad, Nagpur. So credit to Maharashtra state government in ensuring that the relevance of automotive in the state remains beyond the Chakan, Pimpri, Chinchwad. They've managed to create this base. And if you have a big daddy like Toyota going in there, the fundamentals are going to be in place. And they really expect the ecosystem to come and invest with them. And they really handhold the ecosystem. So that is the most exciting part, that you're going to see another cluster emerging in the state. And it is going to be win-win for the automotive industry and the consumer as well.
No, I think, we know that Toyota, they really take care of their partners. It is one big family, whether it's the dealers or the suppliers, especially the suppliers. In fact, we did this earlier in the case of the Innova. They had committed a certain volume to the suppliers. So they had to produce that even though, there was no demand for it. And, vehicles were just lined up, finally sold with big discounts. But their commitment to the supply is just astonishing. If they tell you we'll make 5,000 a month, they will make 5,000 a month, even if only 2,000 a month sell. But, that's because they believe in long-term partnerships with their suppliers. And honestly, Ketan, that is the secret of their success and quality. The quality comes from these deep relationships with suppliers where hand in hand, they develop products which are super reliable and have consistent quality. And, that just comes from having these long, deep relationships.
I agree with you, Hormazd. And another thing that I'm really curious to look forward to, Hormazd, is that they're committing towards plug-in hybrid.
Yeah.
So if Toyota commits towards plug-in hybrid, we saw what happened with strong hybrid. Till the time Toyota did not enter the space, there was barely anything out there.
Yeah.
Now, once Toyota entered the space, we've seen that strong hybrid accounts for now 2.5 to 2.7% of the Indian passenger vehicle market. And the future is multi-fuel. They keep reiterating that fact.
And also, I think we've been not touched on, which I think they, along with Maruti Suzuki, will lead, is the flex fuel engines.
Oh, absolutely.
Because I think flex fuel is going to become big. As we know, there's already overcapacity of ethanol.
Yes.
The sugar lobby is screaming. Ethanol lobby is screaming because, they've been asked to invest about 2,000 crore liters.
Right.
Yeah. And now it is only 1,100 crore liters.
Right.
So, there's 50% overcapacity. So they are jumping up and down, increase the ethanol blends. That is a worry. And, Toyota is going to be ready with it. I think they really know about flex fuel as well.
Yeah.
So I think, as you said, multi-path strategy. But I think the one key component, I still think EVs, they've not bet on as big as, let's say, others have. So really, and maybe they may be right, because the EV kind of acceptance hasn't taken off as much as we expected. It was a great start with all these new models coming in, but again, it's tapered off again, isn't it? Despite so many new models.
Yeah, it has remained range bound around 4 to 5%. It was
Exactly.
expected that will probably go to 6-7%. Yes, despite new models, the penetration.
I think GST had a role to play because that stayed at 5, all the ICE came down and narrowed the gap. So clearly that had an impact. But even so, I think, it's really going to be a smaller proportion of the market. But I think ICE is where the action is with multiple powertrains. And I think that's where Toyota is really kind of leading the way.
And which is where the flex fuel you mentioned, I think, and the interesting twist over there is flex fuel hybrid, no, Hormazd?
That's right.
I mean, with the hybrid, all of a sudden the pollution goes down significantly, the fuel efficiency improves.
And let's say the hybrid system compensates for the huge lack of, or the, let's say, the lack of fuel efficiency, or the
Right.
drop in fuel efficiency rather.
Right,
The huge drop in fuel efficiency, but if you go to E85 and beyond,
right.
obviously the hybrid makes up for that. Yeah.
Right, interesting. So I think new products, new platforms, multi-pathway product strategy, 500,000 insight, new plant coming up, a new generation PNGAC architecture, which is the D900 platform coming up. So there's a lot at Toyota that we are looking forward to, and it's going to be an exciting. I think the race starts by December of 26, and from then on, it is going to be a bevy of new models coming in from Toyota side, which is going to excite the Indian market.
I think, to be honest, I think the race starts in April 27 when the cafe clock starts ticking. They have to, meet their targets by the end of March 28. So that April 27 to 28, that first year of cafe is going to be critical. And I think, but again, Toyota being Toyota, I'm sure they're going to be ready before that. So I think, absolutely, Ketan. I think one company that moves slowly, but moves surely in a very measured way. They can be criticized for being too slow. Also, they've got some of their products wrong. But clearly, I think, one thing they have in their pocket is that badge, that name, and the reputation they've built in the Indian market. Well, that's it from us from Deep Drive. Hope you enjoyed this episode as well. And to make sure you don't miss future ones, do stay notified by clicking on the bell icon. And you can also catch us on our other podcast platforms, Apple and Spotify. Thanks for watching.